Hi, everybody. Ian Bremmer here, and a quick take to kick off your week. Trump versus Harvard, Harvard versus Trump. Another one of these fights that everyone's talking about does have broader implications, so I thought I would bring it up. Trump has decided to end federal government funding for Harvard. He's also saying that all international students are going to have their visas suspended going forward. That includes those that are in the middle of their university degrees. So the parents certainly not going to be happy about that. Has been stayed by a decision by a federal judge, and we'll see where that ends up in a few days, or perhaps later if it's upheld and it ends up going to the Supreme Court. We'll see, like so many of these fights. But what is the point here? Well, first, Trump is considers Harvard a political adversary, and claims that they refuse to take required steps for adequate protection for Jewish students and faculty on campus. Also refused to end race-based hiring practices, which have been determined against the law of the land by the Supreme Court. Harvard says that they are actually implementing both of those. And again, all of this would have to be determined in the courts. But in the interim, Trump is very happy to have this fight. The punishment is the point. He wants to make an example of Harvard in a way that it's kind of hard to make an example of, say, China, because the Chinese are much more capable of hitting Trump and the United States back. Also, because he would love to have the Democrats take on Harvard as a cause celeb. They are certainly very elite. They've got very deep pockets. Most people in the world can't possibly get in. And they're also on the progressive side of the spectrum. So they are not a particularly popular cause for the Democrats to attach them to. It's kind of like that fellow, the illegal migrant that was illegally sent, deported to El Salvador by Trump. Trump really wanted the Democrats to align with him because he could say, look, you care more about this guy than you care more about your own constituents who are in the country legally. He could say you care more about Harvard than you care about, community colleges, trade schools. He says he's going to give $3 billion that was going to go to Harvard to the trade schools. Have no idea how that's going to happen. Didn't really care about the trade schools when he was president first time around, but it is playing to his voters because, of course, working class and middle class Americans are more aligned with Trump now than they are with the Democratic Party and the Democratic leadership. So that's the politics behind all of this. But the reality around it is important too. First of all, the money that is being suspended is money that is overwhelmingly going to scientific research. It's not going to DEI. It's not going to progressive causes in the social sciences and humanities. It's not going to comp lit. The majority of it is going to places like the School of Public Health, where there was a lot of research being done, federally funded, to determine the cause of multiple sclerosis, to limit the spread of tuberculosis, things that the United States should really care about, science that is important to do. Very similar in that regard to USAID. You get rid of it and you cut through most of the programs. You focus on the small number that are that are wildly progressive and that almost no one would support. And then you don't care about the fact that lots of other important programs are damaged. So that's one point, is what's actually happening on the ground is not particularly useful. But the fight is the thing. Also, the question of whether or not this is going to impact the way people view sending their sons and daughters to the United States. Now, if it's just Harvard, there are plenty of other great schools, equally great schools. They may not have quite the same prestige and brand value. And a lot of why you go to university these days, I understand, is prestige and brand value and alumni network and things that don't have much to do with the quality of education in the school. But by any metric, Harvard is towards the top in the United States and therefore globally. On the other hand, what Trump is willing to do to Harvard, he might be willing to do to lots of other universities. And it's not just about suspending visas. It's also about non-American citizens that don't have the same rights, that don't have a right to free speech, according to Trump's administration, whose smartphones could be um, uh, taken and viewed for history of their private texts and are they politically aligned or not with what the administration considers to be acceptable orthodoxy. Could you be detained and thrown out of the country because of something you wrote, something you said, a demonstration you attended that is not illegal, but that you as a non-citizen will be punished for because you don't have the same status. That, of course, is something that will have a chilling effect on others all around the world and make American universities writ large less attractive. The US, when my grandparents came here and my grandmother came to Ellis Island, Statue of Liberty was a big deal. The idea that the US was welcoming of immigrants that were suffering all over the world, and the best and the brightest that would work really hard to come to the US would have untold opportunities that you could not have anywhere else. Now, the United States today and the Trump administration certainly feels that way about Afrikaner farmers in South Africa who they claim wrongly are facing white genocide. And Trump even showed a fake video from the Democratic Republic of Congo to South African President Ramaphosa to try to prove this non-fact. And I guess for a lot of Americans, DRC and South Africa, both Africa close enough, but of course, that's still not reality. But not much willingness to accept refugees facing this kind of a plight from much closer to the United States, from America's backyard, from Haiti, where you'd think the U.S. would care more, or say from Gaza, or from Ukraine, or from other places around the world. And certainly it feels from the focus on Afrikaner farmers that the intention is to say that white refugees are going to be treated differently from others, which is a problem globally for the U.S., not just because this should be race blind, as Trump is saying, hiring practices should be at Harvard and other universities, race blind, but also because most people from around the world aren't white. And that means that the most talented people around the world and the people with the most capacity to contribute to the US economy and to build US companies aren't white. So you really want to be able to attract the best and brightest, especially because the US, unlike India, unlike China, is not 1.4 billion people. It's a lot smaller than that. So the only way you're going to really build the demographics is to still have an ability to have the world's best and brightest have an interest in having their kids educated in the US, maybe stay in the US, maybe have their talents enjoyed by American corporations in the US and have roots and have kids. And if they don't, bring something good from the United States back to their own home countries and have a recognition that all the diversity in the US, the diversity of culture, the diversity of food, the diversity of peoples, and the fact that we find a connectedness despite all of that diversity, that we see the common humanity in one another, that is something that they would like to have more of in their own country. Now, of course, to the extent that the US increasingly doesn't represent that, to the extent that the US is itself increasingly divided, then there's not as much to show off. But I don't believe that. I believe that's the political system. I don't think that's the average American. I don't think that's what the United States as a group of citizens are about at all. And I think in that regard, the long-term damage that is done by telling people around the world that they are less welcome, that they are less equal, that they will not be well treated, that they should not come to American universities, that they should not try to come to American companies to get jobs. Other countries will take advantage of that. First and foremost, the Chinese, not because they're the second most attractive in the world, but just because they're the second most powerful. So they have the most ability to pay off and to engage with other countries if the Americans don't. But also the Canadians and the Australians and the Japanese and the Europeans and all the rest. Does this matter in the next year, 2 years, 3 years? Probably not that much because the US is still the largest economy and most powerful by far. But long term, when Trump is long gone, I fear it will. And that is something that we're going to have to think about for ourselves and for our kids and our grandkids. So, in that regard, I think what's happening right now with Harvard is politically savvy for Trump and is really unfortunate for the United States as a whole. And we'll see it play out. So, that's it for me, and I'll talk to you all real soon.